There is a moment almost no one talks about. Not the celebration after things change, but the stillness right before they do. It feels like standing in a narrow corridor between two versions of your life. Nothing dramatic happens, no signs, just a strange pressure in the air, as if reality itself pauses and waits for you to move first. Most people misinterpret this moment. They think nothing is happening. They think they failed. But this is actually the exact point where everything hinges and where most manifestations quietly fall apart. You have followed the instructions carefully. You meditated when you were told to meditate. You visualized the scenes, wrote the scripts, repeated the affirmations. You learned how to regulate your emotions, raise your frequency, stay positive. And yet the world around you remains unchanged. Time feels heavier. Days stretch longer than they should. A subtle question starts whispering in your mind. Why hasn't it arrived yet? Wasn't this supposed to work by now? That silence is not rejection. It is not the universe testing you. It is not proof that you are blocked or broken. It is a signal. But almost every manifestation teaching has trained you to read that signal the wrong way. Because right at the point where you feel closest to your new reality, something hidden activates. Not resistance, not bad karma, not a lack of worthiness. It is a mechanism quietly built into the way manifestation is commonly practiced. And unless you see it clearly, it does the opposite of what you intend. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The very practices you rely on to bring your desires closer may be the reason they stay distant. Not because you lack discipline, not because you do not believe enough, but because you are operating from a misunderstanding so normalized in spiritual culture that it no longer feels like one. You believe you are calling your future toward you, but at the quantum level, you may actually be freezing it in place, holding it as a possibility that never fully becomes real. This misunderstanding sounds harmless. It even sounds empowering. You have heard it repeated so often it feels unquestionable. You must attract your desire. The word feels active, it feels hopeful, it feels like progress. But the quantum field does not respond to attraction. It responds to collapse. And the moment you frame your desire as something to attract, you confirm something quietly but powerfully, that it is not here yet. You signal distance, you announce separation, you declare that what you want exists somewhere else, some other time, outside your present experience. The field does not debate this signal. It does not delay it. It reflects it instantly, not later, not when you are ready, now. What it mirrors back is not your words, but your state. And the state you are holding is absence wrapped in optimism, lack wearing the costume of hope. This is why so many people get trapped in repeating cycles. They visualize and feel uplifted for a moment. Then nothing external changes fast enough. Doubt quietly enters, energy drops. They return to the techniques with more intensity. They tell themselves to imagine harder, feel deeper, repeat longer. But every added effort reinforces the same starting position. I am still waiting. I am still reaching. I am not there yet. This is not a personal flaw. It is not weakness or inconsistency. It is physics. The field does not answer what you want. It answers what you are being. Every attempt to attract is an unconscious admission that you are observing life from the outside of your desire. An observation is not passive. It is creative. Imagine chasing your own reflection across still water. Each step forward sends ripples outward. The image moves with the disturbance you create. No matter how fast you move, the reflection never arrives. Not because it resists you, but because your movement keeps it at a distance. This is what attraction does at the quantum level. It places your future on a horizon that retreats as you approach it. You can see it clearly. You can almost touch it. But it remains just beyond reach because you defined it as somewhere else. Distance and time are not fundamental truths. They are interpretations of the classical mind. But when you treat them as real, you embed them into your experience. You give them form. In this way, the belief that you must attract your desire becomes the structure that keeps it separate from you. Here is the paradox few are prepared for. The more devoted you are, the more disciplined your routines become, the stronger this structure can grow. Your nervous system learns to normalize longing instead of completion. Your rituals stop opening doors and start reinforcing walls. This is why burnout is so common among seekers. They feel sincere, committed, aligned. Yet nothing changes. They assume manifestation does not work, but it works with absolute precision. It simply responds to the signal they are unaware they are sending. Even science points to this, though it is rarely discussed in spiritual spaces. Quantum observation does not merely record reality, it participates in shaping it. But the crucial detail is often skipped. The identity of the observer matters. When you observe life as someone who lacks, you collapse a world that continues to lack. When you observe as someone who already is, reality organizes itself around completion. The belief in attraction trains you to observe from the wrong place, from the identity that waits, hopes, reaches, and the field without judgment mirrors that identity perfectly. This is why Neville Goddard insisted that you must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. He understood something fundamental. The field does not respond to effort, it responds to being. It responds to your state. But the real danger goes far beyond delayed results. The deeper cost is what this misunderstanding slowly does to who you believe you are. Each time you treat your future as something separate, you carve that separation into your identity. You don't just want something, you become someone who is missing something. Without noticing, you shift roles, from origin to seeker, from source to pursuer. You begin to live as a person whose life is defined by reaching instead of residing. As if wholeness is always one step ahead, one practice away, one breakthrough into the future. Yet the quantum field does not contain better versions of you waiting to be earned. It already holds every version you could ever express, not later, not conditionally, now. You are not traveling toward your desires. They are already present as complete states. What changes is not their existence, but your visibility to them. Think of it like tuning a signal. The broadcast is already playing. The question is whether your receiver is calibrated to that frequency. And this is where the teaching usually stops short. If you are not meant to attract, then what are you meant to do? If effort and longing distort the signal, what actually turns possibility into experience? This is the point where manifestation and physics finally intersect. But before that becomes clear, one hidden structure must be exposed: the observer trap, the quiet mechanism that has been shaping your outcomes without your awareness. Once you recognize it, you cannot unsee it, and your relationship with desire will never return to what it was. Every true shift in science begins with a contradiction that refuses to be ignored. In quantum mechanics, that contradiction shattered everything we thought we knew. Matter refused to behave consistently. What appeared solid dissolved into probabilities. What seemed fixed became fluid. Particles acted like waves. Waves acted like particles. Reality refused to stay in one form. But the greatest shock was not the behavior of matter. It was the role of the observer. The double-slit experiment revealed something unsettling. When no one watched, reality remained open. When observation entered, potential snapped into form. Observation did not report reality, it finalized it. Pause here, because if observation determines whether something remains possible or becomes actual, then how you observe your own life is decisive. Most people are observing from the wrong position. They watch their dreams like spectators, like applicants waiting for approval, like witnesses to a life that has not yet arrived. From that stance, the field responds exactly as designed. It keeps their desires suspended, not denied, just unresolved, always close, never complete. This is not spiritual symbolism, it is the architecture of reality. Your awareness is not neutral, it is directive. Imagine standing inside a vast control room filled with levers and lights. Every setting corresponds to a different version of life. Yet instead of touching anything, most people stand back and whisper requests. They hope the system responds. They wait for the right configuration to appear on its own. But nothing changes because they never assume the position of the operator. Observation from separation is still a choice, and separation collapses into an experience of separation. When you identify as the one who waits, waiting becomes your environment. When you identify as the one who asks, asking becomes your reality. The universe does not interpret intention, it mirrors identity. This is why the observer effect is not confined to laboratories. It is the blueprint of manifestation itself. Different teachers have pointed to this through different languages. Law of assumption, becoming the new self, state of being. Different maps, same terrain. The observer you occupy determines the world that appears. A mind anchored in wanting stabilizes a life of wanting. A mind rooted in being stabilizes a life where things are already so. This is the knife edge where physics and mysticism meet, and it is sharper than most realize. Because the observer is not just your conscious thoughts, it is your state. You can say the right words endlessly. You can rehearse affirmations with discipline and precision. But if beneath the language your body is contracted, alert, braced for disappointment, the field hears that instead. It does not respond to syntax. It responds to coherence. You can imagine abundance vividly, but if your nervous system is conditioned to scarcity, scarcity is what stabilizes again and again. This is the quiet frustration many experience. They know the concepts, they repeat the phrases, but they are observing from their mouths, not from their embodiment. And reality answers the dominant signal every time. Here is the missing piece most teachings barely touch. Your brain and your heart form a unified broadcasting system. When thought and emotion move in alignment, they generate a measurable electromagnetic field around the body. This is not metaphor, it is measurable. It is documented. That field is the interface. It is how your internal state communicates with the larger field of possibility. When intention is clear and emotion is elevated, coherence forms. And coherence changes everything. You are no longer asking reality to open. You are recognized as the access point. But coherence is uncommon because familiarity is seductive. Your nervous system prefers what it already knows. Your brain continuously filters reality for confirmation of the past. This is why new futures feel invisible even when you are trying to create them. You are not failing. You are maintaining consistency. You have been observing life through memory, and memory only knows how to recreate what has already happened. The issue is not that the universe withholds. The issue is that you keep observing from a timeline that has already closed. So how do you step out? It begins with a moment of ruthless honesty. You stop watching your desires as if they are separate from you. Each time you look at them with longing, each time you frame them as elsewhere, you are reenacting the same experiment that guarantees distance. And until that observation changes, the outcome cannot. The next step is not effort, it is identity. You are not asked to imagine a future version of yourself as a distant dream. You are asked to occupy the state of the one who already lives it, not pretending, not fantasizing, but recognizing it as fact at the level of being. This is where Neville's insight becomes precise rather than poetic. Assume the state until the state begins to carry you. Let it move into your posture, your breath, your pace. Stay there long enough that your body forgets the old reference point and adopts a new normal. When that happens, something subtle shifts. You are no longer trying to change reality. You are allowing reality to reorganize around you. Physics and spirituality meet quietly here, not in spectacle, but in agreement. Reality is not a fixed structure you move through. It is participatory. John Wheeler suggested that the universe is not built from solid things, but from information selected through observation. Reality forms not because matter is stubborn, but because choices are constantly being made. This means you are not trapped inside a rigid universe. You are immersed in a responsive field, and every moment of awareness is an instruction. You are never not manifesting. The only question is from which position you are issuing commands. This is the core of the observer trap. To exit it, you do not need more techniques. You need an upgraded identity. You move from fragmented observer to coherent one, from hoping for fulfillment to recognizing it as already established. Hope does not stabilize outcomes. Coherence does. And when you begin observing life as someone who already is, reality responds differently. Events that once felt delayed begin to converge. Openings appear without force. Momentum builds without strain. Not because you pulled anything toward you, but because you stopped reinforcing the distance. Yet even here, there is a deeper layer. one that many experienced practitioners still miss. If the observer is a state, and the state determines what solidifies, then what sustains the state itself? What is the signal you are constantly emitting, even when you are unaware of it? This is the missing key. And without understanding it, people fall back into familiar cycles regardless of how advanced their practices appear. Your state is not just emotion. It is not just thought. It is the frequency that issues the command. If observation shapes reality, then we must ask what exactly the observer is projecting into the field. Most people assume their desire is the message. They believe the image they visualize, the phrase they repeat, or the goal they focus on is what reality responds to. But the field does not answer language. It does not negotiate with goals. It responds to state, and state is an invisible composite. Thought patterns, emotional tone, body chemistry, conditioned reactions running beneath awareness. Together, they form a living signal. This signal is not confined to the body. It extends outward as an electromagnetic field, measurable, dynamic, constantly interacting with the environment. When mind and heart move in alignment, this field becomes ordered, clear, potent. When fear and contradiction dominate, the field fragments, and fragmentation reflects fragmentation. You are always transmitting. What changes is the quality of what you send. Consider a sculptor standing before raw clay. The clay does not resist. It responds precisely to the pressure applied. Too much force distorts the form. Too little leaves it undefined. Your state is that pressure, and reality takes shape accordingly. Completion molds completion, lack molds lack. Your desired experiences already exist as potential forms. You do not summon them by wanting. You give them shape by embodying the state that matches them. Prosperity carries a distinct structure. Connection carries another. Healing has its own coherence. When your internal state matches that structure, formation happens naturally. No struggle, no pursuit. You do not chase the form. You become the condition under which it stabilizes. This is why Neville said you do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. This was not metaphor. It was a precise description of how reality organizes itself. To live as the wish fulfilled is to occupy the state where that reality is already valid. From there, collapse is not delayed. Neuroscience explains this in biological terms. When intention becomes clear and emotion becomes elevated, the body exits the chemistry of the past. A new internal signal forms, and that signal informs the field. Life begins responding not to who you were, but to who you are being now. But here is where many stumble. They try to simulate the state. They say the words while their body remains conditioned to stress. They imagine abundance while their nervous system stays locked in survival. On the surface, they declare certainty. Underneath, they broadcast contradiction. The field does not respond to performance. It responds to authenticity. Misaligned effort drains energy. Aligned embodiment reorganizes reality. You cannot think yourself into a new world. You must inhabit it. Until your body recognizes the new state as safe and familiar, the signal does not change. And without a new signal, the outcome cannot either. So how does the shift become stable? Science points to coherence. When breath slows, when emotion elevates, when the heart and brain synchronize. In those moments, the electromagnetic field becomes ordered and expansive. Research has shown that this coherence affects not only internal biology, but the surrounding environment. You are not imagining change. You are emitting it. This is why ancient traditions place creation in the heart rather than the mind. They sensed what modern instruments now confirm. The heart is not sentimental, it is directive. And when it leads, reality follows. The heart is not just emotional, it is a generator. When it comes into alignment with the mind, the signal you emit gains weight. Clarity replaces noise. Intent gains direction. But coherence is not something you force into existence. You cannot pressure yourself into peace or intimidate your way into alignment. Coherence arises when the conditions are right. Practices like conscious breathing, stillness, gratitude, and embodied awareness were never meant to beg reality for outcomes. They are not bargaining tools. They are calibration processes. They bring scattered inner movements back into resonance. When used gently without desperation, These practices return you to the state where fulfillment already feels natural. And from that state, reality reorganizes without resistance. The field does not negotiate. It reflects coherence automatically. Yet a deeper question remains. If your state is the signal, why is it so difficult to remain in elevated states long enough for change to stabilize? Why do moments of clarity fade? Why does fear reassert itself? Why does lack return even after insight? The answer is not a lack of discipline. It is not insufficient effort. It is conditioning. The mind evolved to keep you alive, not to guide you into expanded futures. It is wired to preserve the known. You may touch a new state briefly, but unless the observer beneath it changes, your nervous system pulls you back to what feels familiar. This is where many abandon the path. Not because their desire is wrong, but because they misunderstand the obstacle. The problem is not what you want. It is the internal machinery repeating yesterday. Before the signal can fully stabilize, the hidden saboteur must be seen. The part of the mind that continues transmitting the past, even as you intend a different future. This force is subtle, it is automatic, and it overrides technique. Until it is addressed, no amount of visualization can sustain change. If the quantum field is immediate and responsive, why do so many remain stuck despite sincere practice? The answer is simple, though not comfortable. The field is not resisting you. Your mind is. The same neural architecture that once protected your ancestors now restricts your access to new timelines. Your brain prioritizes survival over expansion, and without reconditioning, it will keep stabilizing realities that resemble the past. At the center of this mechanism is a filter designed for efficiency, a system that determines what information enters awareness. Its role is to confirm what you already believe. If scarcity has been familiar, it highlights shortage. If rejection has been common, it amplifies absence. This is not punishment, it is conservation. But for creators, it becomes confinement. Even when you attempt to embody a new state, this filter redirects attention back to unresolved memory. You begin sensing abundance, and reminders of obligation appear. You touch connection, and echoes of loss rise. Without noticing, your attention is redirected. And attention is observation. What you observe stabilizes. Breaking free, therefore, requires more than new thoughts. It requires retraining the body. Your nervous system becomes attached to the chemistry of familiar emotions. Stress feels normal. Tension feels safe. When peace enters, the body resists, not out of weakness, but out of habit. This attachment is subtle but powerful. It draws you back into emotional states aligned with the past. Each return disrupts coherence, and the field responds faithfully to the disruption. Here is the paradox. The discomfort you feel when sustaining a new state is not failure. It is evidence of transition. Friction appears when you move beyond the familiar. Most mistake that sensation as a sign to stop. Those who create change do the opposite. They remain present. They breathe through the instability. They interrupt the loop instead of obeying it. This interruption is not symbolic, it is biological. Each time you shift your physiology out of habitual chemistry and into coherence, the past loses influence. Your nervous system learns a new baseline. Ancient practices understood this intuitively. Movement, sound, rhythm, breath were never decorative. They were methods of interruption. They disrupted automatic patterns long enough for new states to enter. Today, this understanding translates into simple actions. Regulating breath during stress, altering posture in moments of fear, flooding the system with genuine gratitude. These are not tricks. They are ways of redirecting the observer. With repetition, unfamiliar states become accessible. Eventually, they become normal. This does not require silencing the mind. It requires repositioning the observer behind it. When you see that survival is only one lens, not the only one, choice returns. You begin observing from sufficiency instead of defense, from presence instead of pursuit. Repeated observation reshapes neural pathways. The brain adapts to the state you occupy most often. The field mirrors the dominant broadcast without exception. Change the state, and the reflection changes. There is no delay, no debate. So when the mind whispers that nothing is working, recognize the voice. It is an echo of conditioning, not a verdict. In that moment, you choose. Repeat the old collapse or stabilize a new one. This is the real practice, not chasing outcomes, but retraining the mechanism that finalizes reality. When the mind begins serving coherence instead of resisting it, manifestation stops feeling effortful. It becomes natural. And there is still one final layer ahead. If survival conditioning bends time into waiting, then how does time itself release? Not through speed, but through synchronization. That is where we turn next. Most people misunderstand what a quantum leap actually is. They imagine speed, a sudden launch from one situation into another, as if time accelerates and carries them forward. But a quantum leap is not about moving faster within time. It is about stepping outside the idea of time altogether. In quantum terms, change does not require a journey. It requires a collapse. A leap happens when waiting dissolves and the future is no longer treated as ahead of you, but recognized as already established. The measure is not distance, it is coherence. In physics, electrons do not drift gradually from one position to another. They do not travel across space like an object crossing a road. They vanish from one state and appear in another. No in-between is observed. No transition is recorded. One state ends, another is present. This is the true structure behind sudden transformation. You do not inch toward your desire. You release the identity that cannot hold it, and what remains is the state where it already exists. The field does not need time to deliver anything. Time is a framework the mind constructs after the collapse has already occurred. A story used to explain what has shifted. This is why breakthroughs often appear unannounced. Connection enters when searching stops. Opportunities surface when anticipation loosens its grip. Healing accelerates when control is released. In those moments, coherence happens naturally. The future is no longer observed as distant, it is inhabited as present. And the field responds instantly, not symbolically, precisely. From the outside, it looks miraculous. From within, it feels familiar, not like creating something new, but like stepping into something that was already waiting. Because the version of you who lives that reality has always existed. Nothing was summoned, nothing was forced. Alignment occurred. Yet this is where many seekers sabotage themselves. They attempt to leap while still gripping the timeline they want to exit. They speak certainty, but keep scanning for proof. They affirm abundance, but monitor absence. They envision connection, but measure isolation. Their attention remains anchored to what is dissolving. And attention is not neutral. It stabilizes whatever it rests upon. You cannot shift states while feeding the one you are leaving. Energy invested in the old reality reinforces its structure. This is why letting go is not passive. It is decisive. It is the act of withdrawing attention from a state that no longer serves. Not suppressing it, not fighting it, simply no longer energizing it. So how does time collapse? You stop trying to cross it. You stop looking for confirmation. You stop checking whether the change has begun. You enter the identity that already lives the outcome. Not later. Now. This is where practice stops being mental and becomes embodied. Close your eyes and allow the posture of your future self to settle into your body. Not imagining from a distance, occupying from within. Let their breath be your breath. Let their pace move your limbs. Let the ease they live with soften your nervous system. Notice the gratitude they no longer generate because it is constant. Let that familiarity wash through you until effort dissolves. At a certain point, your body stops distinguishing between what was remembered and what was rehearsed. Neuroscience confirms this. The brain does not separate vividly embodied imagination from lived experience. The same circuits activate, the same chemistry flows. To the nervous system, it is real, and the field responds to state, not evidence. This is why feeling the future now is not pretending. It is instructing. Nothing is arriving to you. You are arriving to it. You are stepping into the state where it has always been true. This is the leap, not motion, not speed, synchronization. When this is understood, manifestation stops revolving around waiting for circumstances to change. The work becomes internal and immediate. Change the observer thoroughly enough, and conditions have no option but to follow. The world does not resist alignment. It reflects it. And when alignment becomes stable, the leap is complete. And yet there is one unresolved question that keeps many people cycling back into the old pattern. If the shift is instantaneous, why does it feel so fragile? Why do people touch coherence briefly, only to slip back into familiar states moments later? The answer is momentum. An identity does not dissolve just because you glimpse another one. The body carries memory. The nervous system remembers chemistry. And what is familiar pulls harder than what is new. The mind trained to scan for proof begins questioning the moment silence appears. Doubt sneaks in, not as sabotage, but as habit. The shift itself is immediate. Stabilizing it is what requires devotion. Not devotion to outcomes, but devotion to returning. Just as strength grows through repetition, your ability to inhabit a new state deepens each time you choose it again. Not to force change, but to make coherence ordinary. Consistency is not about effort. It is about normalization. The real quantum leap is not a single dramatic rupture. It is the moment you stop asking when and begin living as now. Each return weakens the gravity of the old timeline. Each moment of presence loosens its hold. Until one day, without announcement, the new state no longer feels new. Waiting evaporates. Time loses its authority. Reality reshapes itself naturally. Not because anything was pulled toward you, but because separation stopped being transmitted. And this brings us to the final revelation, one that reframes the entire journey. If you were never meant to attract and never meant to wait, then what is manifestation truly about? The answer is quieter than expected and far more profound. It is not creation, it is remembrance. Everything explored points back to this. You were never meant to chase what you already contain. The language of effort belongs to a world built on division, a world where you are here and fulfillment is elsewhere. But at the quantum level, there is no elsewhere. Every potential already exists as a complete state. Nothing is missing, nothing is delayed. Manifestation is not the act of pulling something into existence. It is the act of recognizing what is already available through identity. When you embody a state fully, reality responds because it has no alternative. It reflects what is being lived. The field is neutral, exact, unemotional. It mirrors coherence without preference. This is why mystics spoke of awakening rather than acquiring. Why enlightenment was described as remembering, not becoming. Creation is finished. Selection is what remains. Physics echoes this truth in its own language. Possibility does not wait to be made. It waits to be chosen through consciousness. The pain so many experience comes from forgetting. Forgetting that wholeness is not earned. Forgetting that abundance and connection are not rewards but states. Forgetting that the universe does not test but reflects. So people search, they hope, they wait. Not realizing that searching is the act that postpones recognition. The shift begins the moment the question changes. From when will it happen to this is happening because I am here. This remembrance is not only personal, it is collective. When one person stabilizes coherence, it affects the field beyond them. Presence invites presence. Alignment invites alignment. This is how movements form, not through persuasion, through resonance. One embodied state gives permission for others to remember theirs. We are more interconnected than the mind can explain. Each time you live from your future self, you soften the path for someone else to do the same. So let this be the turning point. Stop rehearsing the old identity. Stop orienting your life around proof. Stop postponing yourself. Become the evidence. Move as someone who has already crossed the threshold. Let gratitude arise not as a method, but as a byproduct. Speak from completion. Breathe from safety. Live as if the world you once imagined is already familiar. Because it is. The only distance was forgetting. And if you feel ready to anchor this remembrance beyond insight into daily embodiment, there is a next step available. Not to give you something new, but to help you stabilize what you already touched. A structured transmission designed to train the mind, regulate the body, and harmonize the heart into coherence. A way of living from the already real. You will find it where your attention naturally goes next. Because in the end, the greatest shift is not what you bring into your life. It is what you remember about yourself. You were never meant to live as a seeker. You were meant to live as the source. And when remembering replaces searching, life stops feeling distant. It feels like home.